Hello everybody and welcome to a brand new Elder Scrolls Online video with me, Sherman. Today we're going to be talking about hybrids and how they're going to fit into Summerset. If you guys didn't see back in, like, some of my earlier videos back during, say, Dragon Bones or during the Clockwork City, I said that we were getting close to the point where hybrids were going to be a thing. And they were getting closer, but it was mainly the CP that was throwing them off, and some of the gear combinations. We had some gear combos that worked, like using things like Treasure Hunter with Hunting's Rage, or using the using things that give you a lot of crit, a lot of weapon and spell damage kind of combos, like Treasure Hunter and Tooth Row, in combination with Hunting's and Julianus. There was other combinations you could use, like Assassin's Guile. Excuse me. Assassin's Guile with a few other sets that kind of matched it. And then there was sets like you could use Trainee with Pelinals, but with Summerset, we got jewelry crafting, and with jewelry crafting came we got 6 new traits out of the base 3 traits. And one of the things that, because of this, that it allows us to do is it does allow for hybrids to be a working thing. Now, when I say working thing, that means I'm not meaning like a super powerful thing, because hybrids will never be as good as a pure stamina DPS or magicka DPS, because they just get more. Right now, what you're looking at is a DK hybrid DPS that I'm on the PTS with, and you can see that both its stats are equivalent on the magicka stamina. Its health is about where a standard DPS is, which is about 17k, and then the stamina magicka is both 28k. Now, I've had people say that, like, oh, Shackle Breakers with Pelinals is a lot better option. Yes, if you're playing PvP, it's a lot better option. But when you're playing PvE, the one, hands-down, best combination is Twiceborn Star and Pelinals. And I say that with the most generous combination. And when I say generous, like, you know how every game has an in-game build that's always going to be better than anything else? Pelinals and Shacklebreaker is the hybrid's in-game build. It's like the best you can make. Now, using something like the Trainee set with Pelinals, it's a good combination. Using something like Black Rose with Pelinals is a good combination, but using Black Rose and Pelinals, you have to use dual wield and jewelry and a staff on it with Pelinals. You can't use like the body pieces of Black Rose to make it work. Affliction is another good set, and there is others that are really good for the combination of a hybrid, but the rest of them were locked behind crafted, and that was Shackle Breakers, anything that gives you stamina, health, and magicka, or magicka stamina in combination with each other, were really good hybrid gear sets. But there was a problem. There's still another problem. Your crit chance. You can never get your crit chance quite as high. And then even playing that way, you can never get your weapon and spell penetration quite as high. But now, with this update, we can do a combination of things, and I'm kind of going to go over that in what you can do to set up a hybrid. So let's say you're running a build that's not running the best, the Twiceborn Star, Pelinals, Dhamma House combination, which is the best setup. Because no matter which way you go with Dhamma House, so let's say and I want to go over to Dhamma House first. Dhamma House is hands down the best hybrid set that you can get. The reason why is because the 1 piece and the 2 piece. The 1 piece gives you both max magicka, max stamina. This adds to your character's overall stat pool, which is really important on a hybrid. Your 2-piece bonus can give you either weapon or spell damage, and it can do both fire and magic damage. Now, how do you make sure you're getting the weapon or spell damage on this? Well, now Dhamma House actually calculates based off of your max weapon and spell damage. So if you were playing a Magicka DPS, you would get, or something that used Magicka damage or spell damage on the jewelry or on the gear, they would actually get the fire damage with the magic damage increase, with the spell damage increase, the 200 spell damage. If you're using something with a lot of weapon damage, you always get the weapon damage increase. So it reads actually how much weapon and spell damage your character has accumulative across the gear. Not what you have here, but across your gear. It actually calculates it based on that. I don't know how they can do that and make it work that way, but they did, and it works awesome. With this build in particular, because I use all weapon damage to maximize my damage output, because watch what happens when I swap to the back bar. I lose about 600 weapon damage, which is really not good. But when I'm totally buffed up with my pots, I'm going to try and get all this stuff to activate. I don't know if I will. I'm just trying to get this to proc everything. Alright, so now we're going to let this just run its course, and I'm going to let that wear off. It's going to be a minute. But you'll see, like, Dhamma House is still proccing, even as I'm running away. Because Dhamma House actually has a really good uptime of proccing, and I wasn't even doing a decent rotation with this. The highest and I will say this, you will never be able to match that of a true DPS. So now that we're out of combat, we're going to go ahead and take a look at this. As you can see, 4,673 spell damage with an 84% or 42% spell crit. And then on the stamina side, we had a 4,673 weapon damage with a 55% crit. And as you can see down here, we actually have an 84% critical. Like, critical damage total thing, whatever. Damage on this build, if you know if you have a good rotation and good skill setup, this thing can pull roughly about 28k DPS, guys. That's the best. Okay, like I've been able to see with it on a trial run, or even on a parse. Like on a parse, I've seen the person get 32 with it. But that's about as good as it's going to get. And the reason why is because it will never match that of a true DPS. So there is a lot of set combinations, like I said. You can run you can even run Mother Sorrow with its stamina version, like equivalent to Mother Sorrow, the two things that give you a lot of crit on both sides, and use jewelry with like all spell or weapon damage. Or like a combination of things. It's really weird, like how it works, like how you can get it to work. And you can even use things like Pelinals with, say, Treasure Hunter, so you get a lot of spell crit. And then on the front bar, you know, you have the Pelinals, and you're using pots to get your spell crit up there and everything. And you can end up with more of a 50-50 split on the crit. But Pelinals will always be the go-to set for hybrids, because it gives you so much more. It gives you that equivalent exchange of weapon and spell damage, which you need to be a viable in-game DPS. So that's the reason why Pelinals is such a good combination in here, and why it works. Is because it does give you that really good amount of weapon and spell damage. Now, like I said, there is other combinations, like the you can use Affliction with Pelinals. You can use you can even use Briarheart with Pelinals. You can use Seducers with Pelinals. You can use any combination with Pelinals and make a good hybrid. But it depends on how you're utilizing it. Like, I've taken Spell Power Cure and put it with Pelinals for a hybrid healer build. It works out really good. I've taken Powerful Assault and put it with Pelinals to make a hybrid healer. I've taken the Hide of the Werewolf and mixed it with Pelinals to get a kind of a weird off-tank setup. I've taken a lot of combinations to test out, and a lot of them work out really well in the long run. But nothing beats out Twiceborn Star in this. And the reason why Twiceborn Star is so good is because of how Twiceborn Star works. See, Twiceborn Star gives you 2 Mundus Stones to be active at all times. So you can utilize the Mundus Stones, like the Thief and the Lover, to give you a lot of spell crit and a lot of physical and spell penetration. The problem with playing a hybrid is if you went with Infused on this, you would actually end up with a little bit more Magicka stamina, but not by much. So it's actually better to go all Divines with it and go with a medium armor setup and this is for hybrids. Hybrids are still going to be better in medium armor running dual wield and staff. If you want to play a hybrid in light armor, it's better to go all spell damage, and then that way you can put into your CP for penetration on the physical side. That's if you're playing that way. Now, again, it really depends on how you're playing. Like this build here, you'll see I have 34 in Elfborn, 43 in Elemental Expert, and this gives me a 14% spell crit. And I do have Trap Beast, so I get another 10% on top of that. So it takes me to a 24. Not quite stamina, Magicka DPS, critical damage, but it's as close as I can get. 43 in Elemental Expert, this gives me increased Flame, Frost, Shock, and Magic damage by 14%. And then if you go over here, you can see I have 40 in the Mastered Arms, and then I have 56 in the Thaumaturge. And the reason I put 56 in the Thaumaturge is to increase my damage over time. A lot of the abilities I'm using use a lot of damage over time. So increasing that damage over time versus my critical damage output and my having this in Mighty and the other one, I can actually get those greater, like bigger numbers on the damage over time versus the direct damage. So it's kind of, this build is playing more off of the damage over time than it is off direct damage. Now if I was playing another way, what I would do is I'd actually change this around to where I had 56 Elfborn, 56 precise strikes, and then 43. I probably wouldn't have anything in the middle tree, but I'd probably have this up to like 20 something or 30 something, maybe even 40 in here, just to give me that greater benefit of that. Now I'll just show you guys what I mean. So if I take this down to 40, come on. So this is at 40, and I take this down to, I mean, even like 23, and I can take this up to 56. I still need to get this up to 56, so we have to take all this out. And now it leaves me with 12 points. If I put the 12 points into here, it's going to put me at 19%. And I can do this, but as you can see, I lose all that direct damage capability, and instead I gain it in my crits. So you can do something like this with your hybrid if you wanted to. I mean, this is close to 20%, this is at 20%, this is at 10%. You know, you can do something like this if you want to. I don't know like how much of a DPS discrepancy this is going to make in the build, but I mean, I can tell you that if I can pull like 16k on a parse with this, 16 to 20k, depending on how good my rotation is at the time. Oops. I made a mistake there. So I'm going to have to do it on that front attack. Actually, I got to do it twice. Because I got to make up some DPS loss there, guys. Gotta make up some DPS. This is the really bad part about this is like you've got to make up so much DPS. Sometimes it's not even funny. So it's one of those things. Like you've got these really good trade-offs. Like you end up with a lot of stamina. I'm not gonna lie. Like you do end up with a lot of stamina. I was also trying to get this to go off, so. Oh, I hit the wrong button too soon. What the heck? I didn't even do that. Like, I didn't heavy attack. This thing's getting all crazy. So now that the bad guys are dead, you guys can see, like, 16-103, that's not too bad. For me, that's pretty good on this build. There is a few other setups that you can go with that are a little better, that I could go with it would be a, a little better. Let me go back here. So there we go. So as you can see right there, like this is on a 6 million parse. So I did a, you know, 4,840 on the stamina side, 4,840 on the magicka side, with a 42% spell critical. I had a 90% spell critical most of the time, with 4,296 penetration there, and then same thing on the back bar with a 90%. So I had a lot of good crits. I mean, in total, I had 62% crit with its 37% normal damage. If you look though, like my Blockade of Storms, my Eruption, my Burning Embers, my Rending Slashes, my Charged Weapon, Rearming Trap, Flames, you know, like they all did really good damage. Like my Molten Whip hit for 14k on average, or max, and on average at 9k. And so overall, like this wasn't too bad. It was actually pretty good for me. I was gaining more magicka from my heavy attacks there. Like, stamina I didn't even have to worry about. And then right here you can see, like, I had pretty decent uptime of a few things. Like, Burning was 43%, Rending Slashes was 64%, Engulfing Flames was 72%, Burning Embers was 72%, 80% on the Force. So, going over here, of course, Minor Brutality was up 99% of the time. Minor Force was up 96%, Deadly Cloak was up 85%, Dhamma House was up 68%, so Dhamma House was up quite a bit, so it was giving that thing, and my potions were only up 53%. So if I could keep the potions up better and everything like that, I could have pulled more DPS with this in the long run. Like, so hybrids are really at a good place right now, like I said, but they're not quite at that place where they need to be, where they need to be 100%. And that's because of CP. CP throws us way off from the standard of all the other classes because we just can't reach those pools in DPS. Now, if we had ways we could put more into Elfborn, more into Elemental Expert, more into Master at Arms, you know, these two even, and more into this, we could balance out the build a lot better and refine it a lot better. Like, I could probably take this down. Let's do this. So if I take this down to the same as that, where it's at 52, or even, yeah, 52. We're going to have to do it at 52. Because you don't want it at an even number. And I took this down to 52. That only leaves us 8 points to spare into anything. So we really can't do too much. But if we take this down to 15, for example, and this one down to 15, which is going to put us more on a equal field with that. Now we have 53 points that we could spare, and we can actually do something like this, and say take this up to 23, do something like this maybe even. Actually, no, let's not do that. Let's just leave that like it is, and we'll go over here and we'll do 15 into here, and 15 into here. And we'll go ahead and save that, and then I'll just do a quick rotation, and we'll see if this does any better. I mean, I've tried a lot of different combinations in the CP, and honestly, I can't say what's going to be better. And you can even see here, like, I'm still getting almost 17k with this. What the heck? So I'm still pretty much getting about the same as what I was before, a little bit less. Which is, like you said, that's gonna be depending on the rotation and everything like that, like how you play the build. And you might have to change the rotation up a little bit. I mean, because you did change, you know, I did change the CP on it. I usually like to keep my thing there because I'm usually on that bar pretty good. We'll have to see though. But I'm going to go ahead and let that run its course. I'm going to just let it run its course. But as you guys can see, like there's a lot of things I would have to look at to see what would be best overall for the for it to be a good rotational setup, and to find what would work best and everything like that for the CP. And there is quite a few combinations so far. So let's go ahead and take a look. So here we are. 4840, we were still pulling about the same in the crit range there, you know, almost a 90% with the 40%, you know, with that low of spell crit. Same spell and weapon damage, and then on the buffs, we did have about the same on the potions, but our major brutality, major force, still showing better. Not quite as good as where I'd want them to be, but like I said, somebody with a better rotation who can manage it better could probably pull a lot better than I can. Then you add in the factor of like a tank applying major breach, major fracture, and all the other things that come with it. And this thing can easily get up to a 28k. It's not that hard. And close to 32, depending on the rotation. So 32k is still good, even in a trial setting. So this build would still be good in both normal and veteran trials. It would just be dependent on how the guild or your group that you play with, if they'd be willing to let you play with your hybrid. But yeah, hybrids are making a slow comeback. They're going to get more powerful from here on out. It's going to be just like any other thing. They're just going to get more and more powerful as time goes on. Now, like I said, the best combination that I found is Twiceborn Star in medium armor with the Pelinals. All weapon damage, all infused on the jewelry. And it's kind of, that's the big thing. You really want that infused with the weapon damage on this. If you go with all, like, say, all of whatever stats you might want, like, say you go on here, Stamina, Magicka, and then, like, an infused. So you get that greater Stamina Magicka, so it takes you up to that 29k. It doesn't equal out the damage. You actually lose a lot of damage. But you could still put the weapon damage on here, but you could go Arcane with a Robust, and go with Infused here, and still go all weapon damage, and still break 4k weapon damage and spell damage. So there, like I said, there's a lot of combinations in here that you can do. But pure weapon damage is showing better results with the hybrid because of the bigger numbers, the bigger spell damage, the bigger weapon damage. Even tooltips are reading it a lot bigger on them because you're getting so much out of them. You're getting a lot more benefit out of these with the higher weapon and spell damage. Like I said, I don't have my potion popped, so. And that's on the back bar. On the front bar, this jumps up to almost, you know, over 9k. This jumps up to 10k in damage over time. This jumps up to 15k damage over time. And then this is doing 21 something. I don't know what it looks like when it's fully buffed out because I've never checked. But I'm going to guess that those tooltips are pretty high, so. But yeah, hybrids, like I said. And this is just one, guys, one combination that you can use on a hybrid. Black Rose, like I said, is a really good one to use if you want that return of resources. And that's only if you're playing in heavy armor. It's kind of like if you're playing a tank. Like Black Rose and Pelinals is a really good combo. Black Rose and the Twice-Born Star is actually a really good combo. Then there's the Affliction set, which has a proc of damage on it. And if I was going to run Affliction, I would run it with Pelinals, and I'd run the weapons. I'd run none of the weapons, sorry, I wouldn't run any of the weapons. I would run Affliction with 2 pieces on the gear, and then 3 jewelry with 5-piece Pelinals, all the rest of the body. That way I could run something like Master Dual Wield and Maelstrom Bow or Maelstrom Staff with Master Dual Wield. That way you get that little bit of procking extra damage for your damage over time, and your AoEs and all that, like all that single target DPS stuff. You could do that and get really good out of it. But the thing is again, you're making a lot of trade-offs with hybrids. You're either going to go for greater spell and weapon damage, or you're going to go for greater like stats. Like with the running Affliction, you can go with weapon damage on the one weapon damage infused on there with the arcane and robust, and then weapon damage across the top of the jewelry if you wanted to. And you can get a lot out of it. You could go with Shackle Breakers, but with Shackle Breakers you don't get the penetration, so you have to make those adjustments like what we have now, because you're giving up the Lover Mundus Stone, and you'd have to go sharpened. You would want to go Nirnhoned here, or sharpened, or infused here, sharpened here, and then the back bar you'd want to go with a sharpened staff. So that way you would get that greater penetration on both bars, and you'd have to have your CP set closer to something like what I have now here, where you have the 15 and the spell erosion, that kind of thing. You would want that there with the 43, 37, 37. So you get that kind of good mix in there, you know, and then over here with the 23. You would want that good mix in there. But if you have the penetration from like the Lover Mundus Stone and the tank, and you know, is doing all that stuff, you could go the 56 here, and then do this at 52 or whatever, to where you get that 19% spell critical, or you know, like damage over time, because you really wouldn't need this that much. Like this would help, but it's still better off to build this way. Damage overall kind of thing. So you have a lot of ways you can set up, like I said, for a hybrid. And over this next week, I will be bringing out builds with different combinations, as long as I have access to it. Like Affliction, I won't have access to Affliction and Black Rose. I will not have access to those, but I will be able to do builds like, say, the Tooth Row with light armor and dual wield and staff. I'll be able to do that and show you guys that with the light armor Pelinals, so you can see how that works into play. And then I can also show you guys a few other setups that you guys can go with that'll give you a really, like Tooth Row and Pelinals in light armor is actually a better combination, because you can still use the Mage Mundus Stone, the Mage Light on the front and back bar, but you can't use the 2 Mundus Stones, but you can still use the Lover with that and still reach the crit values necessary to make it good. So there is that. The only thing is that your stat pools are going to be a lot lower, so you kind of have to play with the stats a little on that. You have to go with the Arcane Robust on the jewelry, but you can still go with Dhamma House. And if you go with all, like on that one, if you went with all like weapon damage, since you have the dual wield, you get that 6% offhand. Or even if you went with all spell damage, you could still pull decent numbers on the Magicka Stamina side, you know, like the spell and weapon damage side. You're not going to break 4K necessarily. You might get close, but then you'll have more in stats that you can play with. So but yes, hybrids are showing a huge promise in this update, more than they've ever shown in the past. And like I said, this week I'm going to be releasing a lot of different hybrid builds. Most of them will be using the Twice-Born Star, Pelinals, Dhamma House combo. But that's because I want to show you like the best combination with them, and then you guys can make your own decisions on other things. If you want to try the Shackle Breaker Pelinals, you do have to run the Thief Mundus Stone with it, and you do need to run the Sharpen Infused or Infused Sharpen on the front bar with the Sharpen on the back bar, because you need that greater penetration at all times on that build. So, but like I said, I'll be showing you guys all these builds over the course of this next week, which will be pretty cool. And then I also have some solo builds coming out this week too, so keep your eyes open for that. I might just do like half the week in hybrids, like do 2 today, 2 hybrids today, or sorry, 2 hybrids tomorrow and Wednesday, and then 1 on Thursday, along with 1 solo build Thursday, and then Friday give you guys 2 more solo builds, and then do a couple solo builds next week. I am going to be doing a lot of guide videos going on from that point, like going back over my old guides with like gear and stats and all that, you know, just everything. I'm going to go back and redo a lot of my old guides and all that, so you guys have that information. I'm also going to be doing guides on overland gear farming, overland resource farming, and just kind of giving you guys some ideas and places where you can do it, that kind of thing. Because I have 3 different places that I farm resources now on a regular basis. Craglorn is one of them. I farm it quite a bit, and I farm a lot of Carnarthy's Roost. I also farm a lot of Summerset now. But yeah, I'll be showing you guys like different places to farm. Of course, the gold farm. This update actually brings something new with it, which is kind of cool, which makes gold farming a little bit more smoother and a little bit more better, especially for the like. And when I say gold farm, I don't mean gold farm, but like by farming items and selling them on the auction house or on the guild traders. I don't mean farming items and selling them, you know, selling them. I mean flat farming, like bulk gold farming, where you go and farm gold items to sell to a merchant, and that total gold income that you get from that kind of play versus selling items on the auction house. Because a lot of people, you know, they're in guilds that don't have guild traders and things like that, and so they don't have access to a lot of the things that a lot of us do, or some of us do, where we can sell on guild traders and really good guild traders. I don't have that, but I'm just saying a lot of people don't have that, and those that do don't know how to make gold in this game. So that's why I make those gold farming videos, is to show people how they can make gold, how equivalent that gold return can be. But it doesn't matter. In any game you play, there's always a grind of some kind. And in some cases, it's better to grind than it is to not have. So, but yeah, I'm going to be doing all those kind of guides, guys, for you, and a lot of other things. So, a lot of other things to come. But that's it for this video, guys. I hope you guys liked it. If you guys do, you guys can hit that like button. It'd be greatly appreciated. If you guys want to see more videos by me, you can hit that subscribe button. And yes, this will be the first build I share tomorrow. The Dragon Knight Hybrid. So, but other than that, thanks for watching, guys. Until next time, have a wonderful day. And this guy might see you in game. Bye.